Welcome to the BS Show. Are you ready to shoot the... The BS Show would like to thank their sponsors. Jack Cameron, accredited mortgage professional. Jack can show you the way home. Graco Impact Sports, providing top quality combat sport equipment tested and used by all levels of athletes. Dominate your world. RepoSales.ca, specializing in vehicle and equipment recovery, liquidation, and sales. Hemmings House Pictures, the global movement media makers, helping tell your brand story to the world and accelerate the momentum of your movement. Farmbox Films, capturing stories the way you want to remember them.
Hey everybody, welcome to the BS Show, the one and only podcast dedicated to mixed martial arts and combat sports in Atlantic Canada. My name's Craig Ferguson. I'm filling in tonight for Boyd Sharpe and Rick Trash Canyon Doyle. I'm filling in, those guys are getting some well-needed rest. They're scouring Atlantic Canada for more news on local MMA and combat sports. And tonight we're focusing on jiu-jitsu again, as we usually do when I guest host. And I'm super excited because we've got a lot to talk about. The Submission Series Pro event that took place in Halifax Saturday night. And I'm going to be joined by two guests tonight. They're the two newest black belts in Atlantic Canada, Josh Presley, who competed in Submission Series Pro. And on the line right now, already, getting right down to it, is John Gale. John Gale, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. We got you online just before the show went to air, and we were talking about the fact that you watched Submission Series Pro live in the venue. First of all, what were your thoughts on the event overall?
Overall, I thought it was very well done. I was very impressed. I thought the turnout was really, really good. It was nice to see everybody out in support, and I thought it was run very, very well overall. It was nice to set up, which I heard was better than the previous time.
For people who didn't see it, you can watch it at submissionseriespro.ca. It was 10 submission-only, 15-minute matches. All the opening matches were local colored belts squaring off against each other, guys from local clubs, guys and gals, and including Sarah the Bully Smith, who came in from Toronto BJJ to take on Christine Royal Fader from Titans in a blue belt women's match. Top to bottom, a lot of action. What were the local matches? Before we get to the main card, what were the local matches that stood out for you, John?
I was really, really impressed with Christine's match, actually, to tell you the truth. She was coming up against Sarah Smith, I guess, who is performing very well on the international scene, and I guess the two had fought before, and Sarah had submitted Christine, and I wasn't really sure what to expect, how it was going to go. I know Christine trains very, very hard. She's very serious about training, a great training partner, and I was very happy to see her not fall into any sort of traps or anything like that. She just stood her ground, tried to impose her game the entire fight, which is what I always tell people to do. If you always are attacking, that means the other person's always playing defense, and you're going to win. And she wasn't always playing offense, but she was being safe, but yet still attacking, not totally closed up the whole time. I thought it was really good.
In the first Submission Series event, the one that was in New Glasgow back in the winter, the move of the night, in my opinion, was using the Kimura grip to pass the half guard. Mm-hmm. You just saw it over and over again. And Saturday night, it seemed to be that playing with the lapels, and worm guard and variations of it, seemed to be sort of the move of the night. People were, I think, taken off guard a little bit by the novelty of those techniques, and you saw Sarah Smith trying to use some of that same approach, not necessarily the worm guard, but using sort of a Bravo grip with the lapels. What did you make of her attacks from the guard?
I guess first I'd say I have a lot of respect for her. I didn't necessarily agree with her game plan. I don't think she was actually using the Bravo grip per se, where the lapel was coming up from behind. I think she was. It was more in front of the body and wrapping it around the neck, both ways. When I started jiu-jitsu, back when I was a blue belt, really, I guess, I became quickly obsessed with lapel chokes. I found them very interesting from all sorts of different places. But they take quite a bit to set up, and there's not a lot of wiggle room with a lot of them, especially from inside of your guard. And where you're using the person's own lapel, some of the angles aren't always right. So I don't feel that those are very high percentages. I felt she was trying to lure Christine more into a trap rather than, take some risks and actually go for some high percentage submissions.
And what is it like? I mean, I asked her on the mic, what were you trying to do with that? And she said, hopefully she was just trying to distract her or maybe take her attention from something else. What did you think that her end game was with that? Could you tell?
It's tough to tell because you can't just. I'm of the school of thought where when I teach children, how to escape the mount. There's basically two major escapes. You can do the elbow knee escape, which is a very technical escape, and it's, in my opinion, very high percentage. And then you have your hip bump, which is basically just a surprise attack. If you mess up your surprise attack or your surprise attack fails, it doesn't really make any sense to continue to try to do those surprise attacks over and over again because they're just that. They're surprises, and you need an element of surprise. And I feel that that's sort of what you need with those types of lapel chokes. So to me, it didn't make a ton of sense to continue to threaten those sort of submissions that require a bit of an element of surprise. And I found that's why the fight kind of appeared at times to be just kind of like a repetitive, like circular thing, if you know what I mean.
No, that's an interesting theme, and I think we saw some of that in Nick Nahas's match against Dana Dickinson as well, right? Nick was trying to threaten. You go ahead.
No, that was it was an interesting match. I really like people who are very much going after, who are attacking. I do love positions, but I feel that in my game myself, I try to achieve superior position, and then I want to go for the submission always. And I felt that there wasn't a lot of attempt in that fight exactly. Now those are two, very, very tough guys that I've got to train with both of them. They're very, very tough and very, very good. And I understand the idea of not wanting to get caught, but I didn't feel that there was a lot of push for the finish from the top, I think.
Yeah, I think conditioning is an interesting factor, I think, in both those matches. One thing I noticed in Sarah's match is that she was not even out of breath at the end. Christine was very winded and was working very hard for that pass. And I can't tell if, I couldn't tell from, I had a lot going on that night, but I couldn't tell if Sarah was really going for it or if she was just trying to sort of bait Christine into something. I know Christine has excellent conditioning but was going really hard. Likewise, I found in Dana and Nick's match, Dana said afterwards he took the match on short notice. He's a big guy. He knew where his conditioning was. He wanted to make sure that he was on top all the time. And towards the end of the match was just kind of hanging on to make it to the end of the match. How big a factor do you think conditioning was in some of those 15-minute matches?
It's definitely important. 50 minutes is a very, very long time for everybody who's listening. It's a very, very long time to be going one-on-one against another human being who's trying to basically kill you while you're trying to kill them. That's a long time. In my opinion, I think that you just have to look at sort of the attacking mentality, and you could sort of explain both of those situations. So you look at Sarah, who's not necessarily aggressively attacking and moving. Like she is attacking. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to take that away from her. But she's not opening up and doing very large movements. It doesn't take a lot of muscle energy to be passing a lapel back and forth over the neck. Really, she was just doing a lot of minor guard retention movements and trying to bother Christine a lot. Where when you look at the other match with Nick and Dana, Nick was doing everything that he possibly could to try to get out from, re-guarding from half guard. And Dana was actually achieving half guard quite often, mount one time, I believe. And Nick was always pushing him back, and trying to move and trying hit bumps and stuff. So if you look at it like that, Dana had a much more difficult job trying to maintain his position than Sarah would, if that makes sense. Like, yeah.
Let's move on to the main card. First of all, we're gonna talk to Josh Presley in a few minutes. But in the main card, besides the Josh Presley match, what was your favorite match?
Josh Presley match is my favorite match. But other than that, I don't know. There were a lot of really good matches. I think Josh Wincy and Andres' match was, it was a really, really good match. It was really, really interesting to watch. There was a lot going on there.
It was a barn burner in terms of the number of submission attempts and Wincy's resolve at escaping and getting out of bad positions. In the play-by-play that Keenan Cornelius did, he said that sometimes in the submission-only matches, if people are evenly matched, you see the sort of thing that we saw in the main event, where it's not necessarily like a lot of action. They're sort of inside each other's head, and you get into this kind of jiu-jitsu metagame. Not say it was a mismatch, but like Wincy and Andres Bernowski a little less evenly matched, and you end up with a very exciting match.
Yeah.
Is that jive with your thoughts and feelings on it, or how did you see it?
I thought it was. It was a good match. There was a lot going on. It was a very technical match. There was a lot of attacks and a lot of escapes, and I think that's what made it really exciting. But what really made it exciting was the fact that there was attacks. Like, people were trying to finish it, trying to, threatening all the time. Like, that's what you would expect from a submission-only event.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, were you surprised at how the main event went? The main event, for people who aren't listening, went the full 15 minutes, and I don't think there was a single submission attempt anywhere in it. And there was sort of a double guard pull, which for jiu-jitsu players listening will be familiar with that position, but it kind of looks like both guys sitting with grips staring at each other. Sorry, I cut you off, but what were your thoughts on that? Were you surprised how it turned out?
Yeah, I was. And not to take anything away from these two guys, because and it's hard really to put into words for everybody how good that these people really are. But I mean, they're both world champions. Lear's been world champion at blue belt, purple belt, and brown belt, and he won the year after he won blue belt. He won purple belt world championships. And Tinoco is this year's brown belt world champion, I believe, or 2014 world champion anyway. And he just beat. He actually submitted one of my favorite fighters, who's Sebastian Broch, who I thought was just, unbeatable sort of, and he handled him pretty well. It wasn't at all the fight that I would expect either of those anyone to bring to a submission only event. I just don't see that. I don't see a role for that kind of refusing to come on top in a submission only event.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you need to fight to win, and in submission only, the only way to win is by submission. So there's no sense worrying about giving up sweep points or getting sort of reswept. Who am I to question the game plan of two world champions?
Yeah, you saw that. You saw, I believe it was Tinoco more or less achieved a sweep at one point, and then immediately repulled guard. And I questioned in my head, I was thinking, why would you even bother going for the sweep if you're just instantly going to sit back again? It just, it didn't make a lot of sense to me, just for a submission event. Like, don't get me wrong, those guys are incredible. But in that scenario, it didn't seem to make a lot of sense.
Yeah. To be clear for people who are listening, who didn't see the event, we're talking about Marcus Tinoco and Michael Liera Jr. They're in the main event at Submission Series Pro this Saturday night. Tinoco is a two-time no-gi Pan Am champion. He's a brown belt world champion. Michael Lear Jr. is a 5-time Pan American champion and a 3-time world champion. Lear fighting out of San Diego, California, representing Atos Jiu-Jitsu, and Tinoco fighting out of New York City, representing the Marcelo Garcia Academy. Certainly, like, 2 guys that are real up-and-comers and bright lights in the IBJJF and international grappling scenes, and pretty amazing to be able to bring in guys like this as part of this submission series event. It was fun to be a part of it and be the announcer. And the reason I wanted to get into breaking it down with you right away is that I just want to give people an idea of the kind of technical insight that you have into jiu-jitsu. John, for the listeners, just got his black belt like maybe 3 weeks ago, and you got your
like that, yeah.
You got your black belt the same time as your friend and longtime training partner, Josh Presley. Let's talk. We're going to talk to Josh later, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on his match now.
Oh man, it was great. I was overjoyed with the result. I think having the pleasure to fight Josh all of the time, and also having the pleasure of fighting him in competition a long time ago when I was a blue belt and I think he was a white belt. Josh Presley he's unbelievable at jiu-jitsu in my eyes, and Josh Presley at the club and Josh Presley as a competitor are 2 completely different things. I've never seen anybody be able to bring the level of intensity consistently that he does to every competition that he's in. And you could see it, he was, the entire time he was going for the submission. That's what he was there, which is what I would expect from a submission-only event. And it was great. He went right at him the whole time. He didn't back off. He wasn't scared. He just went to go and impose his game on the other guy right from the beginning. And, he had a fantastic finish. I believe it was a reverse triangle or possibly an arm lock from that reverse triangle. But, it was great.
Yeah, he told me it was an arm lock on the stage, but then I've looked at the video a couple times and I can't see it, so maybe I'll talk to him a bit about the position in a few minutes. First time we'd ever seen Giuliano Macario, who's teaching at Forza in Dartmouth and representing De La Hiva Jiu-Jitsu. I just want to clarify, we said on stage he was a 2011 world champion. You won't find his name on the list of IBJJF champions. His English is bad, and we couldn't find the name of the Brazilian organization. There is or was many organizations running different world championships, and he had won one in Brazil. So we introduced him as a world champion, but I couldn't tell you what the name of the organization was. What did you make of Giuliano Macario? Or did you see enough to have an impression?
I didn't get the picture I'd like to have gotten from that. There wasn't enough time, unfortunately. But he seemed very, very angry initially, very serious, and but he was. I found him to be very explosive. He seemed to be, trying to explode past Josh's guard. That seemed to be his sort of game plan. He was very low and would come very high and try to lift him and flip and sort of, the guard pass where you can grab one sleeve and one ankle and sort of pull the guy into an arm lock type thing. I believe he tried that early on. And I didn't get to see much technique-wise. It just seemed to be that for the duration of the fight before he attacked a toe hold and really overcommitted and Josh got onto his back. And the rest is history.
So moving on from the event, I wasn't around a few weeks ago when you guys got your black belts. Tell me how it went down. It was a Wednesday night you were teaching, right?
Yes, I was. My class is Wednesday nights, and the coach, Kevin Taylor, gave me a message, sent me a message, and he asked me if I was going to be in on Wednesday because he said that he was going away, possibly to Cuba, which is a very believable excuse. And he said that he wanted to come in on Wednesday and train before he goes away. So I didn't think anything of it. I just prepared some techniques, and everybody started piling in, and I was like, man, I guess this is what the summer's like here at Titans. Everybody's coming back and training on Wednesdays because my Wednesday classes are pretty small. And then I started, taught my techniques, and then we got into rolling, and then I just started getting slapped with a belt. It was a shocker.
And did they do it with you and Presley at the same time, or one after the other, or what happened?
They did me, and then they did Presley.
Right. So to draw a picture for people, the way that gradings happen at Titans, there's no test, there's no seminar, just one day that you're at class, and you feel a belt slapping on your back when you're rolling. Usually, I think Kevin waits until you're in a bad position.
Yeah, and then he just wails on you
with his belt, and that's it. And then, did they do a gauntlet for you guys?
Oh, of course, which is interesting because we do the gauntlet the polar opposite of every other jiu-jitsu academy that I've ever heard of, which is usually it's as you're progressing through the belts, you run the gauntlet until you're a black belt, and when you don't run the gauntlet anymore. And we tend to do it only for black belts, I guess, but yeah.
Yeah, there was some talk of doing it for brown and black, and somehow they did it when I got my brown belt. I've had it every belt now because of switching clubs at purple.
Oh, good.
So, yeah, good times. I mean, I don't care one way or another about it, but it is a silly tradition.
Yes.
That only looks painful.
Yeah.
How long did you start doing? How long did you start doing jiu-jitsu, John?
I was trying to figure this out the other day. I think probably 9 years ago, 8-9 years ago.
Draw a picture for people. What was jiu-jitsu like in the Maritimes when you started?
Oh man, it was completely different. I didn't know what jiu-jitsu was at all, and I sort of stumbled on. I knew what I wanted, and I knew that what I wanted was jiu-jitsu. I just didn't know that jiu-jitsu was a thing. So I had a friend who knew Peter and Kevin, and he sort of brought me into the club, and so I just stumbled upon jiu-jitsu. Thankfully, it was the first thing I stumbled on, so that was good. But it was just a club of giants. They were just the largest people that you've ever seen. And I guess nobody knows who I am, but I'm basically I'm like an infant child in size. And these monsters, and I had to roll with these giants every day, and it was tough. It was very, very, very tough. But then my friend Josh Presley, who fought on the Sub-Series Pro card there, he joined with me, and I feel together, Josh and I sort of changed the face of what jiu-jitsu was at Titans, in that we really brought in the technique aspect, and we really emphasized the technique. And yeah, we traveled everywhere and brought the techniques back, and Presley and I as well would travel and bring the techniques back, and we really shifted the emphasis on techniques, which I feel opened the door for smaller people to come in. And that's where we are now. We have a sort of an even distribution now, I would say, of big to small.
You had described to me once your first class and the people who were in attendance, and they all sounded like real upstanding citizens. And I'm sure it was a very gentle sparring session.
Yeah, it was.
I think it was Peter and Ralph and Roger Hollett.
Yep, and Norman and Kevin and Jake McKenzie would have been the smallest guy there, but of course he's incredibly good, so he just trounced me equally as bad as everybody else did. And there was Ryan Shaw was there. Yeah, it was big.
Jake is now a black belt. Maybe he's got some degrees on that black belt. Would he have been a purple belt probably then, hey?
I think he was a blue belt, actually.
Okay. What did you think a black belt was back then?
Well, we didn't have any black belts back then. I thought it was... Once I got more into jiu-jitsu, I thought it was this, like an unobtainable, all-knowing... I don't know. That's a really good question. It was so like elusive back then. Like there were no black belts around here, and it's just something that you always want. You always imagined yourself at that stage. You always say, I just want to be a black belt, or I would love to be a black belt. But I guess you always say it without even knowing really what you're asking for. There's just so much that's encompassed in, I guess, that supposed to be at that level, I suppose. But yeah.
What do you think it is now by comparison?
I don't put a lot of stock in belt color. It's just somebody who's. I like to think that there's a teaching aspect to it, and somebody who's able to teach and convey to other people what they do, and also somebody who's developed their own game, somebody who's come into their own game. Because that's, in my opinion, that's my favorite thing about jiu-jitsu, is that no matter what your body size or your flexibility level or any of your attributes at all, you will gravitate towards moves that work for you, and you'll work around things that don't. And a black belt to me is a well-rounded person who sort of knows their game and what they like, but is able to do everything, sort of, yeah.
You talked about teaching. I've been to the Wednesday night class a handful of times. Sometimes I help you with the kids class.
Thank you.
What do you think? How would you describe your approach to teaching?
My approach to teaching is just this. I try to keep everything very technical, because I always say that, we're practicing our techniques at 100% technique level. If you can execute them at 50, 40% technique level, then you're going to successfully complete them. So I need the technique. That's what keeps me going, and I think that's what helps people learn. And I really like diving in and really understanding the techniques. But overall, I think a jiu-jitsu teacher, and what I try to do is, it's my responsibility to bring as many different techniques as I can to my students and let them choose from that what they like and put in their game. I don't get mad if people don't like my techniques, but I hope that something that I bring sometime people will be able to put into their game.
What, just to talk about, you've got a lot going on in your life outside of jiu-jitsu. Can you just talk about that right now? Because I've noticed leading up to you getting your black belt, and just lately too, you've been training quite a bit more, but you're also busy with academic work and stuff. Can you just tell people who don't know you sort of what you've got going on outside of jiu-jitsu right now?
Sure. So I'm a student currently. I'm a medical student, so I'm studying to become a doctor one day, hopefully, which is, I guess I just finished my first year. And, I've taken school very serious ever since I started jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu basically saved my life and showed me exactly what hard work gets you, so I apply my same work ethic to my schooling, and it's done me well so far. And so I commit a lot to school, and we have a lot of responsibilities, a lot of things that I have to do. I have to read a lot, and I tend to shift my priority to school because it's just so finite. And now it's summertime, so now I'm just doing some research on the side and in diagnostic imaging. So all my free time, I just get to go back to the gym, and I don't have to worry about homework, and I don't have to worry about tests and evaluations and stuff. So it's tough to balance, and I'm going to be trying to be better this year, especially now that I'm not injured any longer. And that's my life really: school and jiu-jitsu.
You're going to be a busy guy. You're a busy guy already. How do you see things working out with how do you see jiu-jitsu being a part of your life going forward?
It's the more I prioritize school, the easier it would be for me to walk away from jiu-jitsu. And I only have to think that thought for just a second, and I realize, and I just have to remind myself, I just have to think, and I remind myself instantly that the only reason I am where I am is because of jiu-jitsu. And not that I need jiu-jitsu to keep going forward, but if it's done all these great things for me thus far, why would I stop that? Why would I cut that out of my life? It is something that makes me so happy and puts me around such amazing, hardworking people. We have fantastic people at the gym, and it just makes me so happy every day that I get to go in. So I need to make jiu-jitsu a priority for me so I don't go crazy. I could study 24 hours a day. There's no shortage of things that I have to know now and will need to know in the future, but I need, for my mental health and physical health, I need to be with jiu-jitsu, I think.
We've got Presley on the line now. Do you want to hang out for that conversation? I feel like I don't want to send you packing now. Things are just getting good.
Sure, yeah, sure. I've got lots to say.
All right, Presley, are you there?
Yo. Hello.
How's it going?
Yo, speaking of fantastic, I am here, yeah. What's going on?
We've just been digging in with John about sort of his whole jiu-jitsu journey, and we were talking about submission series at the beginning. Maybe we'll just keep with what John was doing, though. John was talking about the way that getting involved with jiu-jitsu has sort of changed his life over time. Is that an experience you've had?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, jiu-jitsu's totally changed my life from the time when I got started. Like, when I was 17, like when I started up until now, I think I've really changed as a person, like matured and totally I credit that to jiu-jitsu, yeah.
What do you think would be different? I mean, everybody kind of, you've been at it for a long time, everybody between the ages of like 17 and 25 like grows up a lot. Like, what do you think would be different for the way that you would have grown up and changed if not for jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, you hear people talk a lot about like ego. I think that would have been a lot different. Like, just like temperament and stuff, you see a lot of guys like just get really angry like all the time. Like, I think I was probably just kind of going to be more like that, just more like a typical guy, like just into typical guy shit. And I'm just glad I really got into jiu-jitsu and I got into more of like a technical sport, and it just made me analyze that specifically, and then that just kind of carried over into other aspects of my life and other hobbies. And I just started to look at everything else just kind of on like a deeper level, I think, and that's what started to make me feel like, oh man, like getting into jiu-jitsu is kind of changing my perspective on everything. So I just kind of got into it more and more and more, and this is where we're at now.
Josh, for people who are not familiar with Josh Presley, just promoted to black belt at Titans Jiu-Jitsu in Halifax, one of the most successful sport competitors out of Nova Scotia ever in the sport of jiu-jitsu, and competed successfully in his first black belt match against Giuliano Macario this past Saturday night. What was that experience like for you, Josh?
Oh, it was awesome. It was super, super awesome. I can give you like a quick backstory if you want on like my whole competition history. Like, John's here too, so he'll be able to back it up because he was there.
Oh,
for,
that's
like,
perfect.
A lot of first year. So yeah, just real quick. So like when I first got into jiu-jitsu, I didn't compete for like the first year. Lots of people compete in the first like couple weeks, months, whatever, but I don't know, I just wanted to take it like I felt like I didn't want to do it too early. I didn't want to go out and just get schooled. Like, there wasn't many tournaments going on anyway, so I just took the first year, pretty much just trained, did my first tournament, got to the final, got choked out. It was all good. Like, I got the rush from the competition, so I just jumped right back in it, did another tournament the next month, won it, and then me and John got to be really good friends, and we were training all the time, basically skipping school, doing all that shit. And then we were like, all right, we want to go to Pan Am. So we were training. A tournament came up before that, which is the Abu Dhabi Pro Trials, which is like the basically Canadian trials of jiu-jitsu. So me, him, and Kyle Sanford went to that. I ended up getting a bronze. Kyle got a silver. And right after that, we went to the Pan Ams, which is the first real big IBJJF international tournament that I had done. John had done one, I think, the previous year. And I won my weight as a white belt in the Pan Ams. And I thought, like, that's pretty sick. And I thought if I can win Pan Ams, I can win Worlds. And John got a bronze at that Pan Ams at blue belt. So we went to Worlds a couple months after that, and I lost in the quarterfinal, which is one win short of getting a medal. So basically after that, I got it in my head that if I can get that close, I should be able to get a medal from Worlds. And if I can get a medal, I can win. So that was basically my goal for the next couple of years. I went back the next year and got a bronze. So obviously I was motivated to keep going after that. Me and John went to Atlanta to train with Cabrinha for 6 weeks one summer. That was super killer. I came back the year after that and got silver, lost to Liera Jr., who just competed at the Submission Series Pro in the main event. We had a super, super close match that you can still get on YouTube. And most recently, from the last Worlds I competed at, 2013, I got bronze, purple belt, lightweight, and I lost to Munch, who I competed against in the first submission series. And that's pretty much the quick history I can give you on my IBJJF experience.
That's awesome. How do you think competing in jiu-jitsu changed your outlook on it?
On what specifically?
Just on like your approach to training. Like when you're training, I mean, I know you took some time off from competition. It seemed like you didn't do any big tournaments at Brown, right?
Yeah, no, I didn't do many tournaments at Brown because I just didn't really have the money like to compete. Like I was basically, from the time I was like white belt to purple belt, I was just living with my parents, like in my mom's basement and stuff. Like that's cool for me. Like that was cool until I was like in my mid-20s and stuff, and I wanted to have some independence, and I just didn't want to be like the typical live with your parents for your whole 20s and 30s or whatever. So I was like, I'm not going to do that. So I'll have to sacrifice a couple jiu-jitsu tournaments. I have work, I have a full-time job, but it just wasn't realistic. There's tournaments that I can get to if people are down to drive and kind of make some sacrifices, like Boston, Montreal, New York. But the past couple of years, yeah, like it almost kind of seems like I took a brief, like almost semi-retirement. But I think since I got black belt, like I feel pretty motivated to try to kind of do what it takes to get to a little more tournaments and kind of get myself back on the map.
What do you think? I've found myself thinking about this the last 24 hours. I watched Keenan's breakdown of the submission series event, and he was having a good time, but he's pretty dismissive of like kind of the local color belt guys. Like and then once you and Macario got on, he was pretty pumped. Like right away, he could tell that you guys were on a different level. And what do you think it is that kind of separates the wheat from the chaff? You've always been very successful in IBJJF competition, or always been sort of near the top of the pack. Is there something? Is it an approach to training? Is it physical attributes? Like what separates the guys who are going to be able to continue to compete at an international level, at each belt level, from sort of all the hobbyists and also rans in local tournaments and at the gym?
I would say, like, the biggest thing is just, like, the passion you have for it, like, the love for it. Because, I mean, even if you are, like, a real physical freak and you're super strong or flexible or whatever, like, if you just don't really genuinely love it, you're not going to put as much time and as much thought into it as you would someone that does. Like, I don't, like, what they say is, like, full-time jiu-jitsu athletes. Like, I'm not really sure what that is. Like, maybe you train 2 or 3 times a day, and I think to be full-time jiu-jitsu athlete, you just don't have a full-time job, but I'm not really sure. But, like, I consider myself full-time jiu-jitsu. Like, I have a full-time job, but I train basically every day. Like, I think about jiu-jitsu pretty much all the time. Like, I'm always stretching, working out. Just, like, my whole life kind of revolves around jiu-jitsu. It's a hobby, but it's basically my life, you know what I mean? So I think that's kind of what carries me, or what really helped carry me and help me, like, get to the, like, compete on, like, the top level, like you said. Like, I just really, really have always done it because I love it. And if for some reason I didn't enjoy it as much, I just wouldn't do it. But I think that's what carries me, is just, like, I really, really just have a passion for it.
All right, tell us about your experience at Submission Series Saturday night. What did you know, before the match, what did you know about Giuliano Macario going in?
So basically nothing. I got a call from Cat Clark Tuesday afternoon, and he said, hey, do you feel like fighting this weekend? And I said, yeah, sure. Who did you want me to go against? And he said, Juliano. And I said, yeah, cool. And he said, can you weigh 165 pounds? And I said, yeah, sure, I guess I'll weigh myself tonight. So I made that no problem. That was no sweat. And then I thought about maybe trying to research this guy, but then, I don't know, I just decided against it. I think sometimes if you know too much, like, about your opponent and you try to research him a lot, having too much information can kind of, like, almost make you freeze sometimes, right? So, like, I find I've been more into this, like, the past year or two, and just kind of reading about and listening to how different competitors and really high-level athletes and stuff like that think. I don't spend too much time, like, researching opponents. I just focus on my training, watch some of the people that are the best around my weight class and just the best in jiu-jitsu in general, and just kind of try to put my game together from there, and then I just go out and just go hard and just go for it.
And so the match was very short. You were very successful at imposing your game, but there was a lot of sort of small action in it. You know what I mean? Small things that other people may not have noticed. Can you kind of, do you have like a clear memory of it? Are you able to sort of break it down for us? How it looks from your perspective?
Yeah, okay. So if you haven't seen it, or basically like the play-by-play, basically right from the get-go, he came out pretty aggressive. Like I expected that. Like pretty much have to be ready for anything. So I'm basically ready for the guy to just run at me full bore 100 miles an hour, and that's kind of what he did. So I got my grips, I grabbed his lapel, I just sat to guard. I'm really comfortable from there. Guys always have a hard time passing around my legs. So right away he started trying to pin my arm and my leg to the ground and trying to run around to one side. So I just kept following him with my free leg and kept my foot in front of him and kept regarding. I knew he would try to be explosive and kind of run around, so I was just calm and ready for that. And then I really felt like he was trying to pass around my guard and pull me up in the air. And guys that do that are usually trying to pull you into an arm bar. Like if you can picture just pulling on my arm really hard, if my back was on the mat, my arm would just fly up in the air, and then the guy's trying to jump his knees onto your arm and fall on his back and land in an arm bar. So he kind of did that once or twice, and once I kind of felt his rhythm, like, okay, he wants to get this attack, then I just kind of set up my attack off that and got my other grip on his sleeve and kind of rolled up into inverted. I started attacking an omoplata. He resisted that. We ended up back into an open guard position. I went for De La Hiva. And one thing I did think before we competed, I just knew just from not knowing the guy's name, I was like, he's probably not a super, super active competitor. So if I throw some more modern stuff at him, it might mess him up. So I was like, I'm just going to chuck a berimbolo at him if I can. Maybe he doesn't know what's up. So I just did that, and he just tried to dive on my foot for a toe hold. And that's perfect when guys do that on me because I just sit up and try to take their back. So that's what he tried to do. I sat up, grabbed his gi, pulled him down. He kept on the foot. Big mistake. I sat up, got the seatbelt. Would have had the points, but points didn't matter. So I just stayed really relaxed, tried to keep the position. Went for the choke. I was selling out on the choke. I was really trying to get that. I thought I had it after I pulled him over to the other side, and I was on his lapel. Really tried to get that, and then he was turned away, and I just put my I think it was my right leg over top of his body and caught him in a triangle from the back. And then he was trying to pull his head into that, and he was trying to run away from it. And I was kind of losing it a little bit, but what really helped me get is what I reached down and I grabbed his arm. So I held his arm really tight. I didn't quite have it for the Kimura lock like I usually like to get from there, but I just basically hugged his arm super tight and just kept squeezing my legs. And I could kind of hear him making a little bit of noise, so I knew he was in trouble. So I just kept squeezing. He kept pulling away, was kind of panicking, freaking out. And then a couple seconds later, he tapped, and that was it.
So he tapped the triangle. I asked you on stage, you said an arm lock.
Yeah, I said arm lock, but it was definitely a triangle. I think.
Yeah, I should have probably asked him.
Yeah.
But his English was no good. He was a very nice guy, but his English was no good when we talked backstage. So and it was a very emotional moment for you on stage there. What was different about that win than any other one?
I don't know. Like, I really think, like, local events are cool. Like, it's something for me, like, from the time I started competing, like, these all these jiu-jitsu events, basically I competed in up to, like, the first submission series. Like, none of my family was really at. Like, a lot of these tournaments I was going to by myself. Like, me and John went to Pan Am's. Me and John went to Abu Dhabi trials. It's not like the whole team went to Abu Dhabi trials and we went here and went there. Like, no, most of the time when I went to Worlds and got silver, I went by myself. I met up with a friend down there, John Thomas, who me and John trained with in Atlanta, who I got to be really good friends with. But I don't know, I'm like just feel like a jiu-jitsu nomad sometimes. I just go to these tournaments by myself, meet up with a buddy or two, and just do my thing. But these local tournaments, it's like, okay, well, now I'm going to get to compete, but it's like the whole team will be there, and it's like, yeah, my parents can come and my siblings can come. And just the option for, like, all that to happen, it's just a different atmosphere. It's like, okay, like, people are there, and they're there to see you. It's not so much they're there to be at Worlds or to see the Miami Open and cheer some of their teammates. It's just a different feeling for me. So it's cool in a different way that it's cool to win Worlds, but it's almost like just as cool to like compete at Submission Series in a different kind of way.
What do you have on tap next, competition-wise?
Competition-wise, it's around 3 weeks, I think July 11th. I'm supposed to compete on the Submission Series in Mississauga, which I'm not sure the name of that one, but the main event is Joao Assis against Tom the Blast. This was the event I was originally training for. Like, before I got the call for this, I was already training for this match, and this will be the first event I get to kind of go on the road for Submission Series, I guess, and compete in another city.
It's pretty exciting, and I'll be there too for that. Shilling backpacks and selfie sticks all across Canada.
Nice.
The backpack's sick. Did you look at the backpack yet?
No, I really haven't got a chance yet, but Keenan had a pretty good one on his stream that he said all Canadian tournaments should keep giving out luggage as prizes. He had a couple of good ones just on the stream, just on the event being like real Canadian, which I thought was pretty sweet. You want to keep that Canadian portion of the show, right? You want to keep it Canadian.
Oh, for sure. And he was busted on you for crumping and after your win, and for my lame selfie stick abilities. I'm pure white belt at selfie sticking.
Yeah, no, I seriously have not even touched a selfie stick ever in my life. Like, I've never, ever taken a selfie ever. I don't see any reason why I would ever have to.
I saw some, like, backstage selfies of, like, Judo John and a few other people, like, popping up on social media. So you know the selfie sticks were getting used.
Oh, yeah, no, I got nothing against it. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what I would do.
Do you know who your opponent is in Toronto?
Yeah, so I'm competing against this guy. His name is Arthur Chandramohan. I don't really know much about this guy either. I think he's actually a purple belt, and this match was announced when I was still a brown belt.
And gi or no gi? What do you think? What is it?
This is a gi match. Yeah.
Okay. For some reason in my mind the belts matter less when it's no gi, but it's probably not true, but that's what I think.
Yeah, I don't know. For like the belts thing, people will probably think, oh, it's weird that this black belt is competing against the purple belt, but really, like the belt, like the gap from purple belt to black belt is a lot smaller than people think in like the terms of in the real competitive guys, really. And I mean, I take every opponent seriously, especially if it's something like this. Like if it's a tournament and you go to compete and there's a bunch of guys in your weight class, your belt, you know you're all on the same level. But if it's a single opponent and it's like, yeah, I'm a brown belt / black belt, and this guy's pretty close to the same level, like I'm basically looking at it as like, yeah, he's the same as me. I don't think, oh, he's a purple belt. Like I think, no, he's also probably doing the exact same thing I am for around the same amount of years and dedicating his life to jiu-jitsu. So I got to be ready for someone like that rather than get ready for a purple belt, you know, get ready for a dangerous opponent.
Were you able to see many of the other matches on Saturday night?
Yeah, I saw quite a few of them, and it was actually pretty funny that the stream was online like right away, right after, and a couple of the guys from our team were at our place, and the Atos dudes ended up coming over here, and we watched most of the stream right after the event. So I got to see all of them.
So, were you watching the stream with Dan's commentary or with Keenan's commentary?
We watched both. My personal favorite, I think, was Dan's commentary, over Keenan's.
Dan's commentary certainly had like more on point and less girlfriends trying to borrow the car to go to the mall. Which I don't know if you caught the domestic strife in Keenan's life. And
Dan's the man. I made my commentary debut too. I don't know if you knew on the main event. I was determined to get on commentary for this event. I really had it as a plan in my head that if I wasn't going to compete, I was going to try to do like a bunch of it. And then he called me to compete, and I was kind of in the back of my mind. I was like, fuck, I'm not going to get to do any commentary at all. But then it just ended up that during the main event, I walked out to do it, and Pete O'Neill was right in front of me, and he sat down to do it. And I was like, damn it, I wanted to do it. So then I just waited until it was like 8 or 9 minutes. and I just like tapped him on the shoulder. I was like, yo, bro, you mind if I jump in on this commentary the last half? And then Dan just heard me say that, and he just stood up and like took his headset off and was like started pointing to it, and I just sat down. I just put it on and just started doing it. We were just talking like we knew each other forever, commentating that match.
And John Gale, you would be a good person for the commentary sometime.
Yeah, sure.
Oh yeah, me and John would kill it.
That'd
be a dynamic duo. What was your? I haven't listened to your commentary on it yet, Josh. What was your take on the final match at Submission Series Pro, Liera versus Tinoco?
With Liera and Tinoco?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you didn't really see a whole lot happen in that match, but I was thinking about it today, and I think kind of what happened was like Tinoco's a little bit bigger than Liera, and I think both of them obviously really, really wanted to play guard. And they were just super insistent on, like, that must be both of their game. I know it's Liera's thing. Like, everyone sees his guard attack more, and obviously he knows that his best chance to get Tinoco into a weakened position is to start from his guard, because he's probably going to end up, if Tinoco got up, he probably would have tried to get him in some kind of like Berimbolo, De La Riva attack, which would have opened the chance for him to jump on his back, where if he's passing his guard and Tinoco's a little bit bigger, sometimes it's hard to close the distance on a bigger guy, and he can really kick you away and extend you away. And if that's where he wanted to be anyways, and he was probably a little bit stronger, could control the grip out a little bit more and shut him down. I don't know. It just it sucks to see a match kind of end up getting stalled out like that. But what do you do?
It was hard for me to gauge, because it was exciting to just be so close to it. Like at one point, they almost basically like rolled up onto my feet, and just interesting to see all the little battles, and I was so close to it. But maybe.
But I think in that situation, like they need to do something like, I don't know. They either need to have like the ref should be able to like stand them up, or they need to do something to change that situation, because if like you can't just have a whole you don't want to have a whole a main event that has the potential to be exciting, because if Liera and Tinoco like get into it and battle, you're going to see some wild and crazy exchanges and scrambles. But there just needs to be something that maybe a little tweak in the rules or something that we can kind of force them to attack a little bit more.
John, what was it like in the audience? Were people appreciating the sort of technical action, or were people getting restless at that point?
I'd say people were getting pretty restless. Yeah, I don't know how many like real jiu-jitsu practitioners were there, and it was tough to see also from the audience as well, where they were both basically sitting down, so you couldn't really appreciate what was going on the other side. I couldn't even appreciate the grip battles, even though I knew they were going on. You saw Liera getting pretty upset with the inability to break the grip, so he was actually like kicking Tinoco like pretty viciously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's where he had a little bit of that size and strength advantage. Like he seemed to really have a hard time breaking that initial grip. And sometimes, like if you do have a game plan in your head, that can kind of mess you up. Like if you like I know from experience, like if a guy has a significantly stronger grip than you, it's really, really hard to get off any attacks, because he can just keep control of you the whole time. You know what I mean? If a guy just grabs you and holds you the whole time, and you can't break that grip the whole match, it doesn't matter what you try to do, because he's just going to be able to hold you away and pull you in and push you away when he needs to. So if you can't break that initial grip and that guy just doesn't really want to let go, you're going to have a really hard time.
And I agree, and I'm with you on a tweak with the rules. I think it should be something along the lines of Pride style, where penalties actually affect your purse, not just the outcome of the fight. But that's just me. I don't know, just an idea.
Yeah, I don't
know about that. I don't know if you'd want to be messing with anybody's money like on these slim margins we're getting now. But maybe we could just see a stand up, or just there needs to be something that kind of just reinitiates the action. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be mad if after 30 seconds of that they just stood him up. You know what I mean? See what happens again. If you guys want to do the same thing over and over again, if it was me, I wouldn't. I'd try to do something else. But there has to be something where we can kind of restart the action there.
The one thing, like another idea that I was thinking about would be to have a submission bonus and then if it's a draw, it goes to the person with the most submission attempts to at least incentivize, getting into positions that are going to allow you submission attempts.
But I don't know with those rules when you're bringing those kind of stuff too. But then it's like, what is a submission attempt? Is it a submission attempt when you have a fully locked triangle, or is it a submission attempt when I shoot a triangle on you from spider guard and you pull away? Then it gets kind of subjective. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I really like the submission only format and like the way it's going, but there still has to be some rules. Like, it can't be no rules. It has to be kind of tailored so people want to watch it, but they just have to kind of avoid and try to negate these situations where guys are just end up in these kind of stally kind of seesaw positions where the battle's like for one particular grip. Like, we need to be able to do something where it's like, okay, we're going to stand these guys up and start again from the feet, or some type of tweak in the rules. I don't know what it is. I don't say I have the answer, but we have to kind of be willing to tweak things, I think.
We've got a little under 5 minutes left. I just wanted to, while I got the two newest black belts in the Maritimes on the phone, thought I'd get you guys just to take a few minutes to give you a free platform. I'm curious what you think of sort of the state of jiu-jitsu in Halifax or Nova Scotia, where you see things going, what's strong, what's weak, and what could be improved upon. Is there anything that comes to mind? We'll start with John.
This could be a whole show. As far as the state of jiu-jitsu in the world, I think it's a disaster. I could talk to you for an hour on the pathetic state of jiu-jitsu in the world. I'm furious. But the way that you worded the question for Presley was, what's the one thing that will help people perform well at tournaments, and what's the one thing that keeps people in the tournament scene or something like that? The real answer at the end of the day is money. That's period. Money, period. That's the answer. That's why Presley can't go to all tournaments that he should be going to, because he works a job. He has responsibilities, real responsibilities. And that's what it's like here in the Maritimes. It's a maritime show. Everybody's hurting for money around here. There's no, we don't have those rich kids in jiu-jitsu around here. That's not what we have. Well, like worldwide, I think it's brutal. Here, I think we have a really good group of guys. I would like to see, people come here, but like that's just never going to happen, I don't think. But yeah, I think that we have a really good group of guys, really good hardworking guys. We represent really well. The clubs within local don't always get along very well for some crazy reason, I don't know. But we have a lot of really good, dedicated people here. I guess that's what I'll say.
What about you, Josh?
Yeah, no, I think it's going pretty good, really, like, for the most part. Like, I'm really excited for, like, the kids program we got going now. I've been kind of more back into that. And I bring my sister. I got two sisters and a brother, and they're 10, 7, and 5. So, and we got a bunch more kids there, too. Craig's got his daughter in there, and we got some other kids. And I think that's really cool, getting to see some kids start really young and progress through those lower belts and seeing how many kids are at the tournaments around here now. Like, kids, if we have a tournament here, the kids division takes up like 7 hours. It's crazy. I've never seen anything like it. They're going to have tournaments here just for kids, and that's pretty wild for us only having a couple schools around here, right? So, I mean, if whatever you want to say about the adult scene, me and John may have different opinions, whatever, but I think with the kids, jiu-jitsu around here is really, really blowing up faster, I think, than anybody thought it could have. So I think that's going to be something that people are paying a lot of attention to in the next year or two.
Well, I'll tell you, one could be the solution to the other, right? Like, it could be that the development of, like, good kids programs leads to opportunity for employment at jiu-jitsu academies, and keeps, like, a few people working full-time in jiu-jitsu and focusing on it.
I'm sure you guys don't know, but sometimes I teach you guys the kids class. You guys don't even know it, man.
All right. Listen, thank you very much. Nice to get you guys a chance to talk to you guys on the phone and ask you some questions that we don't really get time for when we're just getting changed on the edge of the mat. And thanks so much, Josh, for the amazing performance on Saturday night. I'm looking forward to traveling to Toronto with you and seeing things happen there. Thank you, John Gale, for everything you're doing and for letting me help out with the kids program now and again, and for everything you're doing for Jiu-Jitsu at Titans, and for helping out my daughter too, because she won't listen to me at Jiu-Jitsu.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
All right. Listen, I'm pretty sure that...
Thanks for having us on.
Cheers. I'm pretty sure that Boyd and Trash Canyon are back next week. I want to thank Skippy Cohen for running the show, and thanks a lot. That's enough BS for this week.
Taylor Gang.
Welcome to the BS Show. Are you ready to shoot the... The BS Show would like to thank their sponsors. Jack Cameron, accredited mortgage professional. Jack can show you the way home. Graco Impact Sports, providing top-quality combat sport equipment tested and used by all levels of athletes. Dominate your world. RepoSales.ca, specializing in vehicle and equipment recovery, liquidation, and sales. Hemmings House Pictures, the global movement media makers, helping tell your brand story to the world and accelerate the momentum of your movement. Farm Box Films, capturing stories the way you want to remember them.